This is MJ. Welcome to Henshin Reflection, Heart and Soul, a little mini-series where I'm asking one big question. Can Tokusatsu survive the toy sales cycle? In episode 1, I talked about why I started thinking about this. Super Sentai might actually be ending after 50 years. The Metal Heroes series is stated to take its time slot on TV Asahi with a Space Sheriff Gavan reboot, if you can believe that, and new seasons of Power Rangers are on pause. Meanwhile, Kamen Rider and Ultraman keep expanding. It's strange, and it made me wonder if too much focus on selling toys might be draining the heart of these shows. At least some of them. Before I dive into that, though, I want to look back at how I got hooked in the first place. First with Power Rangers, then with Super Sentai, and how those stories grabbed me long before I ever thought about toy sales or ratings. Before I knew what Super Sentai was, and Tokusatsu was in general, I didn't know what it was. I only knew Power Rangers, and that was my first exposure. But eventually, after I saw Power Rangers, I was checking out a podcast, and I heard about new ongoing stuff from Japan that you could find straight from Japan, and I started watching Gokaiger, and Gokaiger was amazing. From the first episode, the action was so not even intense. It was so flashy and so dramatic and so memorable that it really hit me hard, and I just fell in love with all the flash, all the energy and excitement that you get from like a Power Rangers fight was amplified. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure they transformed right away. Like, the Gokaigers stop on Earth, they're getting curry, and something, I don't know, a Zagnac Empire thing crashes through the ceiling, I think, and ruins their meal, and they go see people suffering, and Marvelous has to pretend that he's just mad because their meal got ruined, and then they have this amazing fight where they're throwing weapons to each other, and they're jumping all over the scene, and just really making a show of it. And it was extremely enjoyable. And there were plenty of fights in the series that stick in my mind, and I can recall. I'm thinking about Joe using there was probably only 5 swords at the same time, but still, he was using 5 swords at the same time, Gokai Blue, and that's amazing. I'm thinking about Don when somebody thought he was, I think it was Damaris, who was a general of the Zagnac Empire, thought he was, Don or Doc, he's called both. They thought he was some great warrior, and he was like the only of the Gokaigers left, and he fought, I think he either wore Marvelous's coat or he had a green one made just like it, and I don't even remember all the plot significance around that, but even just his regular fighting style where he's zany and all over the place and falling over, almost has this weird drunken, it's not really drunken boxing, but this weird manic, Jar Jar Binks almost energy where he's accidentally making things happen in his fighting. It's kind of incredible. And it was just a really awesome, the Gokaigers themselves are compelling in and of themselves, and they're very fun to watch. And then they interacted with all these Super Sentai heroes from the past, most of whom none of whom I knew. I knew some of the suits from them being in adaptations of Power Ranger seasons, and that was kind of nostalgic and kind of nice for me, but I didn't need to know the history of Super Sentai because the Gokaigers were telling their own story in a context of a world with all of the previous 34 Super Sentai and this Legend War or whatever it was called, and it was enough for me, and it was really enjoyable, and honestly it had me very interested in watching for the next few years, which I did, and it kind of opened the door. I think Gokaiger was running while O's was running towards the end of O's, and I didn't watch O's. I watched Forze instead as my first my first modern Kamen Rider. I'd watched, I think, all of Kamen Rider Black before then, and the first third of the original Kamen Rider. So, that's part of my history too. So anyway, they did a really good job. It was very skillful storytelling, and a lot of self-contained storytelling, and then meaningful connections were made when they needed to be made between the current cast and past crew members, past Rangers, past Super Sentai members, and that was really effectively done. But again, before I saw any Tokusatsu, that I knew of, before I saw Gokaiger, and before I knew what a Henshin hero was, or heard the word Henshin, which in Gokaiger they say Gokai chain, so there's no Henshin in there. I saw Power Rangers when I was, I think, 5 years old, and it really blew me away. And before then, I'd watched things like the Batman cartoon, the Superman cartoon a little bit, the Ghostbusters cartoon, DuckTales, like Darkwing Duck, Captain Planet. Trying to think of all the like action superhero type cartoons I watched. I watched a lot of superhero stuff like the Raimi Batman movies. That would be interesting. But the Tim Burton Batman movies with Michael Keaton, I enjoyed those, and I had watched those. I think one of them came out in like 89 and the other was 90 something. So I'd seen both of those before I saw Power Rangers, but like still, there was something very special about Power Rangers. There was something kind of, I don't know, manic about it. The energy was very high, and I had a weird kind of like love-hate relationship with it. I wanted them to just grow big, or to get the Megazord and like stomp on a monster, and then as it's coming up, slash it down again. So I had the kind of like, I don't know what that is, but like the, catching, I've heard of it called I've heard of it referred to as fridge thoughts. It's, you don't think about it till you're at the fridge, but in the moment you're watching it and you enjoy it. You're along for the ride. You don't think about the gaps in logic, but it's funny because Saban and his writing crew put together Zordon's rules that you never escalate a fight, which allows for them to fight a monster at street level, and then once it's grown big, to fight it in the Megazord. And there's other rules that he had that made that all work out. But I don't know, just like the spectacle of seeing these giant monsters, which I'd seen like King Kong versus Godzilla, and like a couple, like, in passing, I'd seen Godzilla movies and things like that. And here we have these, teenagers fighting Godzilla and King Kong and whatever else. They are literally fighting, the giant golden monkey of Goldar. And I think in the first episode, and then there's like a giant Cyclops or something that just the Red Ranger is fighting against. And then eventually they do the Megazord. I believe, I watched it not long ago. I believe their first Megazord battle is with the giant Goldar, which I don't know why that didn't keep happening in Zhu Ranger, but then it sure didn't happen in Power Rangers. I don't know, it was a very different thing. It was very sticky in my mind. And while I love things like Spider-Man, the animated series, and I valued it a little bit more than Power Rangers, like, I don't know, something about like all the stuff with Tommy, the evil Green Ranger stuff, Green with Evil, that whole saga, like really hooked me. And I kept watching and watching and watching Power Rangers. And I looked back and it was just, there was like, I don't know, what was it? Was it 25 years or more of continuous Power Rangers presence on TV every single year? Even though, like, they went from being owned by Saban to being owned to Disney to being owned by Saban again. I think there was a little break between Samurai and RPM. I think RPM was 18 and Samurai was 19. If I'm remembering correctly, maybe I'm not. I don't know. Anyway, but I watched a lot, and like almost continuously for, I don't know, maybe like 8 to 10 years. I watched MMPR through In Space and Lost Galaxy for sure. I didn't really watch the Ninja one, the first Ninja one, and then I came back for Dino Thunder because of Tommy. But I did watch Jungle Fury before the Ninja one, which I think it was Jungle Fury, and then no, not Jungle Fury. I watched Wild Force. I didn't watch Jungle Fury or which that's Kung Fu, and then I didn't watch the it's based on Hurricane or whatever that one's called, or Mystic Force. I didn't watch Mystic Force either. But then I came back, like I said, for Tommy and Dino Thunder, and I don't know, he was like a really cool, really pivotal character for me. And just like the depth of the story of Green with Evil really hooked me. But like overall, Power Rangers just hooked me. And like, I didn't keep trying to watch, Spider-Man or Batman the Animated Series or anything like that. I had Power Rangers so I could watch among other things. And I got involved with other stuff. But it sure left a lasting impression, even to the point that I remembered like Master Rider from season 3 of Power Rangers. I remembered Master Rider from there, and like his appearance there was awesome. And I vaguely remembered the Master Rider show that was a standalone spinoff, whatever. And I actually, when I watched all like the first 7 or 8 seasons of Power Rangers, like about 14 years ago, I watched it all in like rapid succession. I was so impressed by season 3, episode 1 and 2. where they go to Edenoi and meet Dex, the Master Rider. I was so shocked. It's called A Friend in Need. That's what it's called. I was so shocked by how good that was that I thought, man, I don't remember Master Rider being this good. And I checked it out, and it sure wasn't that good. So, your mileage definitely varies with certain things, but still, like the iconic look of Black RX was burned in my mind. And when I found out that that was a thing, then I had to watch Black, because of course, there's Black and Black RX. They're sequels to each other. Sort of. They're going to connect, right? But that's actually how I got into the Japanese stuff. I watched A Friend in Need and had to see more of Black RX. Then I realized there was a Black, which somehow led me to the original Kamen Rider as well. Kamen Rider only had about 30 English subbed episodes at the time, while Black and Black RX had been both fully subtitled. So I checked out Black and was absolutely amazed by it. Gokaiger was coming along, so I decided to check it out when it started, and I've been calling myself a Tokusatsu fan ever since. To be more accurate, I'm a fan of Henshin Heroes, since I'm not super into Godzilla or any of the giant stuff. It's okay, it's not that great. Anyway, so I'm a fan of Henshin Heroes, but that's a discussion for another time. So that's how I got hooked. The energy, the spectacle, the stories that pulled me in long before I even knew what Tokusatsu was. But once I started digging deeper, listening to podcasts and hearing people talk about the business side of things, I began to notice something else. That's where we'll pick up next time. Check out the trailer for my book. If you enjoyed this, I think you'll like it. Magical bugs battle monsters in this exciting fantasy adventure. Gremlings prey upon children. Growbugs protect them. When a gremling finds a hidden growbug fort, the whole flock makes a surprise attack. How will the growbugs survive? Find out in Mockwing Mayhem. Learn more at growbugs.com, where you can find out more about our mailing list, receive behind-the-scenes information, and get all the latest news on the Growbugs.